and after that my father writes about his own birthday on the 2nd of February 1943. It was a few days after that, on the 9th of February, this is the 26th January picture in Berlin, but after that he made a perilous submarine voyage. It took 90 days. His only Indian companion on the submarines was Abid Hassan, who was from the Hyderabad, the south of India. And here he is on the deck of the submarine with the captain of the German submarine, Werner Musenberg. And they had a very difficult submarine-to-submarine transfer in late April of 1943 from a German to a Japanese submarine in a little rubber dinghy in choppy waters. This is with the crew of the Japanese submarine, which it had gone out from Penang, but it decided to go and dock in Sabang because there were already rumors swirling that Netaji might be coming to Penang. He then flew to Japan in June 1943 and then arrived in Southeast Asia on the 2nd of July 1943. Here you see Rashbihari Bose just behind Subhas Chandra Bose at the airfield. It was on July 4th, 1943 that he took over the leadership of the Indian Independence League. He made a stirring speech in Hindustani in which he said, "Hum zinda rahe ya mare wo koi baat nahi hai, sahi baat ye hai, aham baat ye hai, Hindustan azad hoga. India shall be free." This is in the Cathay Theatre in Singapore. And the next day, July 5th, standing next to him is Muhammad Zaman Kiani, who was the commander of the 1st Division of the Indian National Army, which fought in Imphal and Kohima in 1944. This is India's Army of Liberation, and what is truly striking about it is that Netaji was able to unite Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians by assuring everyone equal rights and equal status. He also united the people from North India and South India. The British had a very spurious theory of martial races and castes. So many of the professional soldiers who joined the INA happened to be from Punjab or the Northwest Frontier Province. But then the overwhelming number of civilians in Southeast Asia, and there were close to 3 million all across Southeast and East Asia, happened to be, the majority of them happened to be from South India, many of them Tamils. And that's why when Netaji spoke in a mixture of Hindi and Urdu, the Hindustani of that era, there was always simultaneous translation into Tamil at his public meetings. So he completely undermined, the British, concept of martial races and castes. And he believed not just in the equality of different religious communities and linguistic groups, he also, in addition to community, class, caste equality, he believed in gender equality, and that is why he formed a women's regiment of the INA, the Rani of Jhansi regiment, led by Lakshmi Swaminathan. Here you see her, Lakshmi Swaminathan, and Subhas Chandra Bose is speaking at a women's gathering, and you see a photograph of Mahatma Gandhi. And let us not forget that it was Netaji Subhas Chandra Bose who first addressed Gandhiji as father of our nation in a radio broadcast. So even though they had had some differences in 1939, they had come close together in their aims and ideology from at least 1942 onwards, when Gandhiji had launched the Quit India movement. At first, the women were in saris, as you can see here, but soon they were in uniform, And there was the Rani of Jhansi training camp in Singapore. One of the important challenges that Netaji faced, and this relates to multi-ethnic societies, just think about Indo-Burmese relations in the 1930s. It was a period of economic crisis. There was a massive peasant rebellion in the early part of the Depression, led by the Buddhist monk Sayasan, which was directed against the British, but also Indian financiers and moneylenders. But Netaji made certain that there would be good relations among all Asian freedom fighters. And he was using Singapore, Malaya, Thailand, Burma as the basis of his operations, and therefore he was extraordinarily generous to his hosts. And here you see him shaking hands with Barmore of Burma, and there are the other leaders of the Burmese independence movement also seen in these pictures. He proclaimed the Azad Hind government on the 21st of October of 1943, and he had always believed that India should be a federal union. And from the late 1920s, he had been talking about a concept which in English he presented as cultural intimacy. He wanted to see cultural intimacy among the different religious and communities of India, which he felt was lacking. And in this, he was somewhat different from Gandhi, because Gandhi would not, in his early life, take part in interdining, and had not, in his early life, been in favor of intermarriage. He changed his views on both counts later on in life. But Subhas Chandra Bose believed that cultural intimacy has to be the foundation for political unity. And he wasn't talking about secularism in a Nehruvian sense, but he was thinking in terms of equal rights, equal opportunities, equal status for members of all religious communities. And this is what he actually showed in his actual work. For example, in the British messes, the different religious communities would dine separately. But in the Indian National Army, Hindus, Muslims, Sikhs, Christians, they all came together, they ate together, they sang together. There was a wonderful INA orchestra which composed inspiring revolutionary songs. There was an INA Qawwali in which everyone participated. Jai Hind ka nara gunj utha, and so on. And of course, he was also a diplomat on the world stage, representing India at a critical moment during the Second World War. He was trying very hard. He was troubled by the conflict between China and Japan, and he wanted that to be resolved in the interest of a larger unity. Here I'm showing you a picture of our father, Shishir Kumar Bose, at 1 Woodburn Park, which was Sharat Bose's house, just round the corner from the ancestral house, Netaji Bhavan, where there is a wonderful museum set up by our father way back in 1961. I'm showing this because this is where one of the secret agents landed by Netaji, who came by submarine and had landed on the Kathiawar coast, came and asked for our father's help in putting them in touch with the revolutionary underground in India. Because the whole idea was that when the INA came into India, there would be a large-scale civilian uprising. I mention this because I know I've been getting messages that at long last, many of these secret agents who had landed by submarine and who had been executed by the British after secret trials, are beginning to be remembered and honored. And again, they belonged to all the regions and all the religious communities of India. A few years ago, I went to Kerala to give the Abdul Qadir lecture. This is a Kerala Muslim who was one of those who had been executed in the Madras penitentiary. And I'm glad that you're remembering so many who are from Malaya today. He paid reverence to generations of Indian revolutionaries who had spent life sentences in the cellular jail on the Andaman Island, which after it had been handed over to the provisional government of Free India. And of course, there was this, the retreat, which was a glorious retreat. You know, along with his soldiers, along with the women of the Rani of Jhansi regiment, here was a leader who would stand with his followers, never let them down, and they walked together back from Burma to Thailand during a 23-day trek. And again, and this of course, the earlier photograph shows him laying the foundation stone of the INA Martyrs Memorial in Singapore on July 8, 1945. And this is the last photograph that we have of him arriving at Saigon Airport on August 17, 1945. But the saga of Netaji and the INA did not end there, because Netaji was able to turn a temporary military setback of the INA into a dramatic political victory. And that happened partly because of an error of judgment on the part of the British, who put on trial 3 officers of the INA, 1 Hindu, 1 Muslim and 1 Sikh at the Red Fort. The people of India got to know about the glorious achievements and the sacrifices of the soldiers of the Indian National Army, and a slogan was raised, Lal Kile se aaye awaz, Saigal Dhilan Shanawaz. So that is how, you know, unity among all of the religious communities had been forged. And Mahatma Gandhi was a great admirer of Netaji. Every statement that he made about Netaji between August 1945 and his own assassination in January of 1948 were in the form of eulogies. And the element that he admired most was, in fact, his ability to bring about unity on the basis of his deep commitment to equality. And that is why I think he's relevant today. He's of course relevant in India. These days he's being honored in statues made of granite, but there are many small statues in every village, in every small town of India that came up over the decades since 1945 and after independence. But we really need to, you know, follow his ideas of equality and unity. And this is a lesson which is true not just for India, but in fact for all multi-ethnic societies, and practically every country is in some form a multi-ethnic society. I entirely agree with Raja Rasaya that you know, the entire political spectrum has shifted to the right, whether in the United States or the United Kingdom or Europe. Majoritarianism masquerades as democracy, so a religious or an ethnic or a racial majority is trying to fight back against processes of democratization that had taken place in earlier decades. And in this kind of a context, whether we are talking about America or Europe or different countries of Asia, Netaji's ideas and ideals remain as relevant as ever. As he had put it in a letter that he wrote to the government when he went on a hunger strike to get himself released so that he could escape from India and raise an army of liberation abroad, he had said that ideas and dreams don't perish. And so that is what I think we need to learn from Netaji. We need to learn today, the younger generation in particular, needs to learn today from Netaji's glorious book of life. Jai Hind. Thank you.